What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of TAETRO Talks. Here today on this fine Thursday morning, afternoon, evening. I don't think it could be morning for anybody, but for some of us, afternoon, evening. Could even be Friday for some of you time travelers out there. Anyway, welcome back to another TAETRO Talks. I see a few people jumping in chat already, but just to do some table setting first and foremost, we do this show every Thursday. It's a talk show, traditional talk show. Sometimes we have guests. Actually, I would prefer to have guests because we do call-in shows on Mondays. But when we don't have a guest lined up, we do a call-in show, which is always fun because I will drop a Zoom link into the chats, which I'm doing right now, and you can jump in and join in the waiting room, and I will take calls one by one. Nobody's on video, it's just audio, and you can ask your beginner music producer questions, things to do with the creative side of being a home studio music producer, etc. If you're having trouble finding motivation, trouble with your workflow, all those kinds of things. Trying to avoid some more technical stuff that will, unless you know that I can answer a specific question, you've seen me use a piece of gear, or you've seen me do something, we won't do too much tech support, I'd say. But we can answer calls that benefit the whole community, and that's what we do here every Thursday. So I'm stoked to be here. Like I said, this is a call-in show, so get in your calls now. Next week and for the next 3 weeks-ish, we have guests lined up that I know you folks are going to like. If you all hang out to the end of the show, I will let you in on the secret of who the next 2 guests are, because those are locked in completely, and they're people that you likely know if you spend any time on YouTube, and I think that you're going to really enjoy. I think it's a great opportunity to interview some great artists and creators, just like we have been doing. Make sure you check out the podcast feed, TAETRO Radio, and any podcast feed you listen to, because you can find clips from the interviews, from call-in shows, all that. It's a great thing to just have in your podcast feed, listen for motivation, all that good stuff. And today, specifically, TAETRO Talks is brought to you by 343 TV. If you don't know, 343 TV is streaming every day on youtube.com/343labs, which is a music production school based in New York, online, and in Berlin. So we've got a mixing class starting in person in Berlin, and then we've got all kinds of other classes starting up online in New York and then also in Berlin as well. So whether you want to use Ableton Live, Logic, no matter your level, if you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, we've got courses for all that. We've also got more general synthesis classes, like I said before, mixing and mastering. Lots of different ways you can take advantage. These are full-on 12-session courses taught by some really amazing instructors. And look at the website, 343labs.com, and let us know what you think of the course selection. Are the courses missing? Are you interested in the course but have questions? Actually, you can ask those in the chat, because I know our friend Thomas is hanging out in the chat, keeping an eye on things. But it's really cool. 343labs.com. You should check that out. Once again, I'm dropping the link so you all can call into the chat. All you gotta do is click that link. You can use Zoom, etc. Am I frozen is the real question. That's what I need to know. It seems like I'm frozen. Let's do a quick be right back and we'll do a reset. Sorry for that. we're back. Let me know if we're good. Hopefully that doesn't continue to happen in the show. Sometimes we have just random technical issues, though, so I appreciate you all for being patient and hanging on. Without further ado, though, you can let me know in the chat if it does freeze, and you could, of course, just type in. You can type in the chat if it freezes, and I will keep track of it. Don't spam the chat. You don't need to type frozen like 100 times. Totally. I haven't checked in with the chat yet, though, of course. I see lots of cool people hanging out. Samuel Messiah was the first one here. Harsh, what's going on? Carlos Pineda, nice to see you. Jacob wants to know about the God coffee. Yeah, we're drinking pressed coffee today. So that's good, in the French press. My mom is here. Nick Lovin, who is a patron on Patreon. Amazing. My dad is here. Gabu, hey, what's up? Your boy Mozzie, what's good? Of course, 343 Labs is in the chat, so you can just click their name and subscribe to that channel while you're in my chat. Sky Silver, OC, Yusuf, Jithin, what's up? Rev Sabes is holding it down as a moderator. I don't think that's going to go away ever, but I'm okay with that, as long as you're okay with it. DJ Wax Terito, what's up? So stoked to have everybody here. Aditya, what's going on? It's midnight where you're at. Cool. Vasu, hello. Oh, you're one of those time travelers. Very cool. Divine, don't spam the chat with your own links. It's not even going to let you, and I'll just put you in timeout if it just keeps happening. Basha, what is going on? Welcome to the chat. Happy to have you here. Raul, hello. Matt Morrison, what's good? Lots of familiar names and then also new names. Aditya, yes, if you want to repost your question in here, you can. I do prioritize call questions over text questions, but I try to do my best. Lucas, what's going on? Michael Duff, hello, fellow bud. The GTV, what's up? So stoked to have you all here. Oh, Will Joseph, I almost passed you up. I'm sorry. Okay. And then I see some folks over in the 343 chat, which I am also monitoring. Chroma Beats, hello. Michael Groman, what's up? And Sky Silver, are you in both chats? I don't know what's happening. And we've frozen again. Be right back, folks. We might have to do a radio show today. Jeez. Thank you all. Thank you all once again for your patience. Trying my best here. Sometimes it likes to just randomly not work, even though we did a stream today already and it worked fine. But I think we're good. I'm just going to keep an eye. I want to get right into calls because it is supposed to be a call-in show. If the freezing becomes just like a problem and it's throwing off the whole show, I'll throw up a little image on screen like this. Whoa. And we'll just pretend that it's a radio show. So you can all listen in the background while maybe you clean up your desks, because I posted on Instagram the other day, and a lot of you very clearly have to clean up your desks. And we'll do some calls. Okay, musician Vasu. Let's get you in here for a call. And let me make sure my Zoom is all set up. You will have to mute the stream when you call in, because it's a little bit behind and we will be in real time and we don't want to echo. But yeah, we're going to bring in musician Vasu first for the call. Vasu, maybe you can tell me. I'm so stoked. Let's start the call in. Y'all are great for hanging in with all the technical difficulties. I appreciate you all. What's up, Shaman77? What's up, Sonia H in the 343 chat? Musician Vasu, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Oh, you're typing to me in this chat, though. Make sure you enable your microphone, my friend. It's in the bottom left-hand corner. Little microphone setting. You muted yourself. Now you've unmuted yourself. And we can hear you.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for calling in. Where are you calling in from?
India.
Thanks for calling from all the way across the world. How do I say your name? Is it Vasu?
Yes.
Awesome. And what is your question today, Vasu?
Nothing, just joined in.
Say it again.
Nothing, just joined in.
Oh, just joined in. Did you want to talk about something today? What are we calling in for? Question that's on your mind around making beats, around music production?
No, just.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in anyway. Folks, if you're calling in to ask a question. Don't worry, a question. Remember, I will turn up the volume. Don't worry. Let's get Carlos in here. The link, once again, if you want to call in. Hey, Carlos, what's up? Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on once again. How are you doing?
I am doing good. And you?
I'm doing pretty well despite technical difficulties, but we're going to make it through. What's your question today?
So as you know, the school year is about to start
True.
next week.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask you a question that's been going on my mind recently.
Yeah.
It's like how I can manage like my personal time to my work time for music.
Personal time and work time for music. It's a great question. What age or what grade are you going into?
I'm going into 7th grade.
7th grade. Yeah, and school kind of gets harder and takes up more and more time kind of as you go. And 7th grade can be tough, 8th grade can be tough, all that stuff. But the way I try to balance time, because obviously you want to be responsible to your school life because you're still figuring things out and you're trying to, build your future. You're maybe not sure what direction you want to go in, but obviously you have this interest in music production and you're going to find a frustration as you find yourself spending so many hours in school or doing schoolwork, in school with them plus homework. And then you're not able to devote time to this thing that you really love. So one of the things I tried to do while I was in school, regardless of what grade I was in or whatever, was just try to do as much as I could to not just get by, but I wasn't going to stress. Like I would get like A's and B's. I was like an A and B student, I would say. And, but school was easy for me. And I say easy, but like easy to just get by, like getting A's and B's. If you really know the system and you know how school is, like what you have to do to kind of get those passing grades. And it doesn't always come down to cramming things at midnight or struggling so hard to like get the difference between an 85 in a class and a 95 in a class at the end of the day when you're 28 like me is not really, it's not going to matter that much. It's just it's not worth the staying up late, like making yourself super stressed around studying and things like that. That said, you should still get the best grade you can get, but you're going to have this interest in music production, and that's not going to go away. And honestly, a career or building up your skills in music production is going to be a little bit more beneficial to you if that's your true career path and that's really where you want to go, than, memorizing all 27 of those prepositions or whatever it is, So I'm not saying just like throw school out and throw it to the wayside, but I am saying that you shouldn't make school this burden of stress on you to the point where you're not going to actually get this dream or this passion that you have for music production out. And then there's other ways in school. You got to figure out like what kind of music program your school has and how you can best take advantage of it, because that's one of the main things that I definitely took advantage of, even though, like I was into contemporary music production, all that good stuff. But with school, I played the trumpet, and that just had me immersed in music. And I definitely learned things about music theory, music composition and arrangement and melody from playing in, traditional school band. And then when there was an opportunity to take like an electronic music or contemporary music class, I jumped on that and I took that. So there's ways you can fill your school time to actually get some credits towards actual high school or middle school diploma graduation, so that you don't have to spend it all in, some boring study or however it works at your school, So don't take this as like forget about school, whatever. Do as much as you can to get decent grades that'll move you on to the next grade, and then take the rest of the time that you would spend stressing about that preposition test and put it towards your goals of learning music production.
Okay.
Especially, like, let me ask this: are you going to be doing school from home, or are you going to be actually going back to school?
Yeah, I'm doing school from home.
Yeah, so like that, if I was in school now, especially like when it all just went down, here's the thing: the schools aren't, I'll say this, like many schools are not super well equipped to do like the whole digital classes thing, and you'll have to show up for some classes, but you're not going to have nearly the amount of time spent. Like, think of all the time you just saved by not having to commute to and from school. Like, you don't have a ride there and back anymore. That's time saved. You don't have like time in the hallways. You don't have time in the cafeteria. And you can look at a lot of these things. And then you don't have like the random classes. Like, you're not going to go to gym class, obviously, because you're at home. Think about all the time. Like that obviously, part of that is sad. We wish we could go to school, be with our friends, do all these things, whatever. But at the same time, if you want to look at an optimistic point of view, it's like you're saving so much time. If you literally just calculate the hours that all those things I just listed would have taken, and you say, I'm going to just dedicate those specific hours to actually like making headway in my music production passion, you will be so much further along. But you have to be deliberate about your time, and you are now undertaking like this passion and this, not hobby, but like this lifestyle of, you're going to have to spend a lot of your free time devoting it to this passion. And that's when you'll really start to understand like if it is truly your passion or not. Because I'm passionate about music production, but I also like to play Call of Duty. But since I'm passionate about music production, I can switch that on and off. I have the discipline to say, okay, I play a little bit of Call of Duty tonight, and then it's back to beat making, things like that. Does all that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I don't want your parents coming on here next week saying, why did you tell my kid to slack off in school so he could do music production? Because it's not what I'm saying. But hopefully you just understand kind of the nuance of it all.
Yeah.
Good call. It's a good back to school thought, and I'm sure a lot more questions like that will be coming in. Thank you so much for calling in, Carlos.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, have a good one.
All right, you too.
Peace.
All right, peace.
Yes, I am assuming, chat, that we'll have a lot of back to school questions. I put the image up because if you want to just take a look. We froze. That's the bottom line here. And I do have other callers waiting, like Nick Lovin, who I'm going to let in right now. And we're going to keep rolling on with the show. Take this next set of calls, and then maybe we'll try to readjust the camera. Nick, what's up? Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey, and thanks for your patronage over on patreon.com/TAETRO. I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. I'm actually super stoked about it. Being part of a little community of beat makers, I'm very excited to see where it leads and whatnot, and being able to support TAETRO, man. Why not?
I appreciate it. It's a fun little batch of folks from all over the place. What's your question today?
So I recently acquired an Ableton Push 1,
Cool.
and that machine is amazing.
It's amazing. Like even in 2020, it's amazing.
Yeah, and you were saying last time on your Mentor Monday that, it wasn't about, how recent the gear is, right? It's just like how you use the gear. And I'm an advocate for that statement. So there's a function in the Ableton Push that I love dearly, which is like keeping everything within the same scale, the scale mode.
Totally.
Now, I guess my question for you is, because we have this technology to keep within certain scales and the limitations of the music theory, what inspires your melody creation and, exploring melodies and in chords? Because, I could do the same, 4 chords, but it's kind of like pop punk where, if you do the same 4 chords again and again and again, it kind of becomes repetitive. And,
right.
With melodies, it's tough to kind of nail one, right? So, what inspires your melodies?
It's interesting. It's kind of two facets to what you just mentioned, because there is the chord progression facet of what you just mentioned, and then there is the melody. Well, to go start with melody, I really try to. It really comes from the interest in pop music and contemporary music in general, because I really am imagining my melodies as a singer singing them, and that really helps me, because there's different types of melodies, right? Sometimes you can have that repetitive riff that's over to the side or panned over. It's kind of part of all the it's part of the window dressing of the track, but it's not quite the front and center singer. So I make sure that I'm very deliberate about what I mean when I'm trying to come up with a melody, and then if I do imagine it as the singer, I really try to imagine like what is a human being capable of singing, and would this sound natural if a human being was singing it? So especially with grid instruments like you talked about, it's super convenient because you've got all of the notes in key there, and then it's about finding fluid motion, doing things like call and response. You set up a melody that has some tendencies, and then you kind of respond to that melody that you just set up as if it's having a conversation. And I'm at a point where the melodies sort of just flow out of me with that in the back of my mind, with the idea of it being a human singer, even though I'm playing a synth line or whatever I might be playing. And then with the chord progressions too, one way you can really sort of break out of that is really try to hash out like all the different. You could play in one key, right? But there are a bunch of different chord progressions you could potentially play within that key, of course. But then it's also about expanding your palette chord-wise in terms of extensions. So using sevenths, and then even beyond that, doing cluster chords where it's not a very clean triad, but maybe you're playing not such a clean-cut triad chord, but notes are a little more clustered together, but it still hold down some type of progressive harmony. Breaking out that way and trying to go outside the box, not sticking to the rules, because you are right, especially in pop punk. Like you hear so many songs, especially in that genre. It's almost like on guitar, once you learn one, you've learned a lot of different songs. And then when you get into transposing, you're like, oh, this is practically the same song, just in a different key. You get into that habit. But yeah.
It's like, hey, it's that one Blink-182 song.
Again.
Wait, it's all the Blink-182 songs.
Yeah, exactly. But I actually, I'll backpedal on that a little bit and say that's not even just true for pop punk music. If you really dive into any genre, it's a little harder, right, for electronic music, because in a band, traditional pop punk band setting, you've got acoustic guitar or electric guitar. And so if you're learning that music, you're picking up one instrument and you're playing the chord progressions on it. With like modern pop music and stuff that's a lot more electronics based, it's got the same thing going on for sure. It's just a little, because the sounds are so much more diverse across different types of electronic music and pop music, it's hard to pinpoint, because you don't say, oh, that's that guitar playing that same chord progression. With the electronic and pop stuff, it's a little more like, oh, these sounds are all new and fun and cool. And then maybe if you're really listening, you can pick out that it's the same chord progression as another electronic song that maybe uses some different synths or different sounds in general. So that's the advantage that some of this electronic music and pop listens to. But voicing doesn't just go across the one instrument you have playing chords. It also goes across the whole spectrum in electronic music production, right? Because you've got lots of different sounds happening at once, like we just talked about. So which voices, which sounds are playing what role? Who's playing the third? Who's playing the fifth? Is the third on top? Is the seventh on top? Maybe the root's not even on the bottom. You know, like ways of playing with that you can really have more diversity in the music for sure.
For sure. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Voicings and just adding to the palette. If you think of it as colors and like mixing colors together, you know, there's red, of course, but then there's red with a little bit of white in it, which makes like a faded red. Eventually it becomes pink. Like there's a million shades of blue, you know, there's teal, and then you get into purple. You really can think about your harmony that way. It's like mixing colors on a palette.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a really good way to describe it, especially for a graphic designer.
and with your Ableton Push, like if you've got that grid mode and you've got all those notes in key, you can really get wild, because it's not the same thing on a piano where, okay, I want to play in this key, let me just throw my hand down and play a bunch of notes. You do that on a piano, you're getting a bunch of crap that doesn't work. You do that on the Push where everything's in key, sure, you'll get some stuff that doesn't sound perfect, but eventually some combination of the randomness that you end up throwing your hands down on will actually sound kind of cool, because all those notes are in key.
That's so true. It's more like rhythm based at this point rather than theory based, right?
Yeah,
Takes the
well,
theory away.
actually take the next step there. So if you do end up doing that and you end up laying down this really cool chord progression that you kind of just clustered together some notes, and you mash your fingers down on the pads, take the next step and really look at what did you do there, and have you heard anything that sounds like it before, like in music that you like? Or like, is there a reason that you like it? Because maybe you've heard something like it before. And then really analyze, you know, we've got the MIDI roll, you've recorded it, look at the notes and try to just analyze what exactly is happening that you like the sound of, because that's something that could become a part of your signature sound, you know, that specific voicing. And you could end up reusing, it might have been random in that moment, but you might want to end up reusing that voicing in another song or another track later on. So don't just throw the theory out the window in the creation process. Sure, that's going to help keep your juices flowing, to just kind of allow randomness and allow your ear to take the lead. But don't hesitate to take that next step when you're through with that and really analyze what's going on there, so you can recreate that thing you really like.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's good to know.
yeah, it's a lot, but you're gonna have so much fun with that Push 1. I mean, I just got a Push 2, actually, like right before COVID hit. I was at 343 Labs in New York, and they let me take one home, and obviously I haven't been back to New York since, so I've had a Push 2. But my Push 1 before that happening was serving a completely like perfect role. Like, it's such a great controller.
Yeah, I was using like an MPK and an MPD.
Yep.
You know, at the same time. And I've had this thought about, you know, how do I make music without, I mean, I know where you're coming from when you're talking about, you know, keeping theory in mind and why you like that, you know, because there's certain types of theory that we are attracted to.
For sure.
But it's almost like I wanted a concept where, you know, if I was to play music right, how do I keep it in the scale without even thinking? Because when you're doing piano, right, you always have to look at the notes. You always got to make sure, you know, whatever scale you're in or key you're in,
totally,
there's flats that you have to worry about, right? But completely shuts that kind of out with the push with that scale mode. So
And you might outgrow that after a while. You might say, oh, this is all sounding a little too in key. This is all sounding a little too diatonic. And you might eventually, say, let me venture into this chromatic mode and let me try to add some really out notes in here. You might do that, but you'll grow into that. And that's what's nice about the push. It allows you that space.
now, could I just ask you one more question?
Let's do it.
What is your favorite thing to do on the push?
My favorite thing to do on the push, it's interesting. It's kind of the first two things that come on to mind is looping is really easy on the push. So I really love just being able to play an idea, boom, smack the record button, and I'm looping. But then I also love being able to step sequence, because there's not many other controllers that have that natively built in, a step sequencer for Ableton Live. And on the push, that's just so convenient, especially if you want to, do something a little bit different than what you've just kind of been able to play with your hands. If you want to actually step sequence some patterns, especially doing that live, shrinking and growing patterns as a way of performing with patterns is really fun as well. And then I know you said one thing, but the note repeat is just great. You throw on the note repeat on the different rates, whether you're playing a note or whether you're playing a drum sample. It's just a very fun performance tool.
It's just a beautiful tool all around for music.
Absolutely. You're even though I have the pusher, you're making me want to grab my push one off the wall and just say, let's just have a good time.
I don't necessarily need that push 2 screen, right? I mean, it's probably cool to look at, but that push
Totally.
1, man, it just does everything I feel that the push 2 has.
And you can save a ton of money.
There you go.
Thank you so much for calling in, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, TAETRO. I appreciate you too.
Peace out. Have a good one.
You too.
Good call. Good call. All right. Let's take another call. I see lots of folks in chat. Very exciting. Shaman says, how do we take a TAETRO Teaches Ableton course at 343 Labs? That's interesting. If you want to learn Ableton with me, I've got lots of videos out, but the instructors at 343 Labs have much more detailed careers. I mean, there's even Ableton Certified Trainers working at 343 Labs, so they will be able to take you very, very far, probably further than I can take you for sure. Santiago Coca, and then I'm going to take XPS's call in the chat. Santiago Coca says, how do you record your audios from the tutorials? You record your screen and PC audio? Yep, I record my screen, I record the video, and I record the audio with a Tascam recorder. I do a little line out from my interface into the recorder. My headphones plug into the recorder so I can hear everything that's coming out of the computer that's being recorded. And then I sync it all up in Final Cut Pro. Dawson, do you have a small PA system for small live gigs? I don't really play live gigs, but I do have a small Roland speaker that's portable. A good beatbox plugin that makes your MIDI controller keyboard to a looper, sort of. That's Eli's question. Eli, you should check out the looper in Ableton Live because it's got a big record button on it, just like a traditional looper, and you can map that loop record button right to a controller. And it'll work just like a stomp box, just like a traditional looper for sure. Oh, John, this is coffee. This is not tea. This is my French press coffee today. God coffee. I'm so stoked. Everybody's having a good time in chat. I'm just trying to catch up, and then we're going to grab XPS. If you would like, you can call in. It seems like, knock on wood, we have a pretty stable camera situation happening now. So I'm stoked that that's seeming to work out. I'm dropping the Zoom link once again in the chat, and we're going to grab XPS. And you can call and ask your question live on the air. While XPS is connecting, I'm pretty stoked. Sluggish, if you can think of a way to phrase your question, I'll try to decipher it the best I can for sure. And I'm sure the community in the chat will help as well. XPS, you are connected. What's going on? Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Where are you calling in from?
Sorry, that's my host name. My name is Riddhiman.
Say it again. What is it?
My name is Riddhiman. I'm calling from India.
Awesome. Welcome to the show. We've had quite a few callers from India between the show on Monday and the show today, so I'm super
It's
interested.
2 a.m. here, midnight.
Wow. So it's Friday for you.
Yeah. Actually, I'm totally a beginner. Beginner means I'm totally recently purchased this Akai Mini MPK MIDI keyboard, and
Nice.
still not able to open due to my busy shift hours from till midnight.
Wow.
It's a totally busy shift. Yeah. So it's a completely different domain on which I work, and it's a completely different domain on the music. So basically, when in the school days, I was to sing. I was to take those classes, music classes, and completed to some degrees as well on the music, basically on the vocals. Now this is a completely interesting part about this music production, which I've recently been following on different different videos. Now the thing is that if you just talk about being a fresher, how do you suggest? Because making a beat I'm just focusing on the FL Studio right now.
Mhm.
So
I'm going to ask you one thing. Just take one deep breath because you're going kind of fast. So I don't know if you're like nervous for being on the show or anything, but just slow down a little bit and then I'm going to try to catch up. I hear you. I'm just like having trouble processing all the information that quickly.
Okay.
But
sorry.
I love your enthusiasm.
Okay, so just talking about the first music making, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I was trying to compose my own song and sing onto that same song, then create a background music on that. So basically, creating all of those things. And I do not have any group, so basically, I'll be doing everything on solely. Now, the thing is that if we just talk about this music production, do we need to know many kind of instruments? How does it work? Or the chords? Because I have basic idea of this piano and the guitar chords.
Yeah.
And but if you just talk about making a music, there are lots of layers, right? From
Of
if I
course.
just see a videos from any music composer, they have 14 or 15 layers of any musics. So it's really very tough. So how do you suggest how to progress on this one? How to get developed or get really good? You understand, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really, it comes down to you don't have to learn a bunch of different instruments for sure. If you have a little bit of guitar and piano knowledge, that's a great start. The keyboard's really going to take you the farthest because a lot of us, like especially you talk about having the MPK Mini, a lot of us use keyboard instruments to, interface with our software. What you really want to focus on is understanding how those layers all interact with each other, because it's not just layers on layers on layers. They all kind of serve a purpose. And even if you just learn some very basic two-hand piano songs, or if you really look at two-hand piano music, what you've got space for is like bass and chords in your left hand, and then some melody and also some harmony on the right hand, as much as you can do with two hands. So if you really try to break up your layers in a very simplified way that way, that's really only kind of 4 layers, main layers that you can focus on. I know you talk about seeing a lot of composers and things like that with many different layers, but in any good music, each of those layers has a purpose. So it's not just about layering and layering and layering. And I always break it down. You've got your drums, you've got your chords, you got your bass, you got your kind of mid-range melody, and then you got your melody on top. That's your singer. That's what everybody wants to listen to. All of your sounds should fit somewhere in that category. And it's not really about learning all the different types of instruments. It's about learning where they fit. Okay, the bass obviously is playing low range of notes, and they're not playing a ton of notes clustered together. Bass line is usually one note at a time. Chords, on the other hand, kind of have the mid to low range covered, where there's lots of notes spaced out to create some harmony and a bed for everything to lie on. Melody is usually sitting right on top, and we want a lot of people to hear that. But to go back to your point about layers, sometimes people build those simplified layers that I just explained with a bunch of different instruments. So it's not about learning how to play all these different types of instruments. It's about really listening to the music that you love and dissecting every single sound that you hear and figuring out where where does everything fit? Everything has its own space. If you hear a track and it's too busy or it sounds unprofessional, it's probably because it's just too crowded. There's too many things happening all at once, or there's too many things that are not working together. You can have a bunch of layers, but they've got to be all working together. They can't be stepping on each other. That's the biggest problem we run into is layering, and then layers interfere with each other, whether it's mix-wise in our headphones or it's like music idea-wise. You think about the last track you heard with vocals on it. If there were multiple vocalists, they were either harmonizing with each other, singing the same line, or they had, a kind of counterpoint line where they were bouncing off of each other and maybe call and response or playing counter melodies that blended really well. You didn't have just a bunch of jumbled mess, a bunch of vocalists trying to do all the same thing at the same time, or all different things all at the same time. It has a purpose. It harmonizes, or it calls and response, or it's call and response, or it's a counter melody. There is a purpose. So just always make sure that there's purpose in your layers. That's the one biggest piece of advice. You don't have to go learn a bunch of different instruments. You and your keyboard will be fine. Just make sure you use those layers wisely.
Okay. One more query.
Sure.
It's not about me. How do you, let's say, suppose you want to create a song. How do you get in touch with a melody? I mean to say, do you play a music and then start linking with the vocals, or you would just first hear some other voices too and try to link it with your music? How do you start that?
There's no right way. You can either come up with a chord progression first and then try to play a melody on top of that, or maybe you already have a melody in your head. Now, usually, like as you get more and more advanced, because usually when I have a melody in my head, it's not just a melody. I can always hear the chord progression behind that melody. And I've worked with singers and songwriters as well, where they'll sing or play a melody or something, and I can automatically kind of hear the chord progression behind it. But that's a skill that you build over time, and things can be reharmonized as well. There's no right way to do it. If you have a melody in your head, get the melody out there and then try to figure out what pieces go with that. And don't just make something up, because once you've played that melody, there probably is a natural chord progression that will go with it. So really try to listen to your brain's ear and try to understand what chord progression you're actually hearing under that. Or you start with a chord progression and you can play a melody over it. Just picture that traditional singer. If you got that chord progression looping, what would a singer do? What would if your favorite artist put out a song with this chord progression, what would it sound like if it was on top? That's a really easy way to take yourself out of the writing process, or take your insecurity out, is imagine that it's not you singing on top of the track. Imagine it's your favorite singer singing on top of the track. Hear their voice in your head, and then you feel a lot less pressure that you're the one who needs to perform. You can actually hear it how a singer that you love would hear it. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, this is very helpful. Thank you for the advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for calling in. I hope you call in again soon.
Yep. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yep. Bye.
Very cool. Very cool. I want to catch up to the text chat. Knock on wood. We've had some good luck with our tech issues, that's for sure. Kevin Lee asks, you going to make a comparison video for the MPK and the Mini Lab? If it's very requested, if people go to that video with the launch key in the MPK and they say we need the Arturia comparison, I will do that for sure. It's an easy comparison to do. Absolutely. Yes, I'm not sure if that's what you're asking for as well, Mukul. Fellow Bud, what age did you get into beat making? I would say not that long ago. I was doing a lot of music production. Hey, Diego, welcome. You're not too late. I got into songwriting first, fellow, and then I got into electronic music production. So I was making like instrumentals for my proper songwriting, and then I really started getting more and more into electronic music. I see a couple people in the Zoom waiting room. Let's get Ayush in here. Let's do it. Hopefully it works. How can you call? There's a Zoom link in the chat that people have posted a couple times. You can click that link as long as you have Zoom on your phone or your computer, tablet, whatever you got. You can join. And you'll be in the waiting room. Don't worry. You won't be immediately on air as soon as you click that link. We lost that call. Let's get our friend Samuel Messiah in here. Just going to keep rolling through the caller. So I'm dropping that link one more time. Oh, and Rev Sabes is doing an amazing job and also dropping the link as well. But we have another caller coming in. Samuel Messiah, what's going on? The number one.
Hey, TAETRO.
Number
How
one
you doing?
TAETRO call-in guest, I think. So this is your segment. This is no longer TAETRO Talks. This is Samuel Talks. So take it away. Samuel Says. How about that? We'll make an intro sequence for you next time.
It does match pretty well.
I say so. All right, Samuel Says. What does Samuel say?
So I had a lot of questions for today, but I tried to narrow them down to like the bare bones.
I appreciate that because we know that this will not be the last live stream, that you'll have plenty of time to call in the future.
Yeah.
Let's-
Okay. So I'm trying to like merge two audio clips together.
Mhm.
Is that possible in Ableton?
Yes, so you're trying to merge them together, like export them together, like two
Into
different
one
tracks,
clip.
or into one single continuous clip.
Into one clip.
So if you throw them into arrangement view and you
Yeah.
command click them both, so they're both kind of highlighted or selected, you can right click and hit consolidate, and they will be consolidated and they will be in one clip. You'll be good to go.
Okay. Well, yeah, and then so I was browsing through the internet on how to remove vocals from a track,
Yes,
and then
I know nothing about that,
I
just
saw
so you
this
know.
guy that was talking about EQ8.
Mm-hmm.
Is it on the light version though?
I don't
think it
believe
is.
so. You'll have to go to Ableton's website. I don't think so. I believe the early versions of Live come with, or the light versions come with EQ3, I believe. I would not chase
there a
that down
difference?
too much between what, EQ3 and EQ8?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest difference is, EQ8 is like a graphic EQ with 8 bands, and you can adjust those all 8 bands individually. EQ3 only has 3, a low, mid, and a high, and it's not like a graphic EQ. You don't have like a graph.
Well, I mean, that totally defeats the purpose, but it's fine.
Yeah. Don't get too hung up on removing vocals from tracks, because unless you're really, really trying to make remixes and stuff, like, I wouldn't put too much effort into that.
Okay. And then I was trying to browse for like, that marshmallow style vocal synth.
I think so. Like the super like EDM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was browsing around for any free vocal synths and I barely found anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the sound was. I'm not sure exactly what the sound is, I should say, but it might also be sample based. So you might be able to find a vocal sample. I think it's usually like a female vocal sample, usually like a single note of a female vocal, and then throwing that into a simpler, which you've probably seen me do on streams many times, and playing that as an instrument will actually get you very close to the effect, I believe. It's not going to have a super synthesized sound, but you might be able to process it in a way where it sounds a little more synthy and a little less sampley. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Now, last question.
Let's do it.
So I was watching the earlier stream, like, I don't know if it's yesterday or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the stream on ADSR, I think,
Yep.
and I heard there was like a vocal in the background, but I didn't watch the stream from the beginning. So what did you do?
A vocal in the background. Oh, yeah. Well, I did exactly what I just told you. So you should go back and watch that whole stream from this morning. It was morning for me, at least. And you will see exactly how I use a vocal sample in the way that I just described to you. It's using Simpler, which should be one of your instruments in Live. unless it's not in your version. But yes, check that out. Watch the process of creating that because you'll be able to see me do it from the ground up.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And do you have like a sign off? Do you want to say like, this has been Samuel Says? Have a good one.
Yeah, sure.
Do it.
This has been Samuel Says. Have a good one.
Peace out, Samuel. Great call. Great segment. Samuel Says. That's what I say. What happened to my waiting room? Did I mess something up? I think I messed something up. If you were in the waiting room, I think I did something wrong. But I'm dropping the Zoom link in there so you can jump back in and I'll take your call. What's going on here? I see questions. Basha Rivera asks, how do you boost up the volume of a track? I'm having this issue with my music. It sounds all right when I'm in FL Studio, but once I export it, somehow it gets a little bit quieter. That's interesting. I don't use FL Studio, so I don't know what the issue could be. It could be that whatever you're taking your music and playing it on, like say you send the track to your phone or you want to go listen to it in like iTunes on your computer after that or something. It could be that the volume in that thing that you're listening to it on, whether it's your phone or your car or your iTunes, is not at the same level that FL Studio was. You want to make sure your master level is at 0. You don't want anything to be peaking. And actually, when I'm doing tracks now, I'm starting with all of my tracks at like a -5 or -6 dB. That means like the drums, the whatever it is, vocal synth, chords, everything. All the tracks that are loaded are starting at least at -6 dB. They're not starting up at 0. That gives me like a working volume that is generally pretty low. But once things start to stack up, it gets a little bit louder. But that allows me the headroom to go ahead and add a mastering chain on. And if you don't have a set mastering chain, Basha, that's where the loudness can really come through. And it sounds counterproductive to have those tracks start at a much lower volume. But what you want to do is start them at a lower volume and then get a mastering chain that, say you throw a compressor on there, a maximizer, a saturator, whatever it may be, a limiter. You're boosting that mastering chain so that your mix sounds really good with everything low. Mastering chain is going to bring it up to the volume. And as long as things are getting to that 0 marker on the mastering chain, you should be good. But different sound sources and stuff have different attributes. Like Bosch is saying, it doesn't get super quiet, but it gets quieter, and sometimes 808s aren't audible. Sometimes the other things you're listening to music on, like you can't hear the 808s. Like these speakers that I have here, these JBLs, they don't have any subfrequency at all, and they don't have a very robust bass response. So when I'm doing 808s, I do them a lot of the times in these headphones, these JBL headphones, Club Ones, I think they're called, and I do them in that. And I could hear the 808s a lot clearer. And then when I play on these speakers, I can't really hear the 808s. It's just how it goes with some devices. That's why I say to always check your mixes across a bunch of different stuff. I check them on these headphones. I check them on my AirPods. I check them on these speakers. The car is a great place because I know the car has good sub response. All that good stuff. You got to check it on a couple different things. It might be that there's not something wrong with your mix. It could just very well be that there's differences across all speakers for sure. But if you're having a loudness problem, definitely check out like gain staging, bringing things down in gain when you're first starting your song in your mix. And then when it's time to mix and master, throw a mastering chain on there that gets everything nice and loud. Headroom will help you make things louder. It doesn't seem like it should make sense, but it does. I'm catching up on text chat here. Jonathan Mueller asks, would you recommend the Complete Control M32 or the Novation Launch Key Mini more? If you use Ableton Live, the Novation Launch Key Mini more. I've taken piano lessons for almost 10 years. I'm looking for my first MIDI controller. Yes, I think that the Novation Launch Key from a workflow perspective is superior. Aditya asks, what's your drum quantization settings? When I do it, it just changes the entire thing. Interesting. So you need to know what rate you're playing at. If you're playing at a faster rate, you might need to switch to like 16th notes. Usually I'm somewhere between 8th and 16th notes, unless I'm doing something really crazy. Things like rolls or certain fills, they don't really, how can I say, you can't quantize them necessarily because they're not at a set rate, especially if there's triplets involved. Of course, you can quantize triplets, but there are some drum patterns where you can't just throw one quantization setting on the whole clip. You have to just do it piece by piece. So if there's a steady backbeat, you might be able to just throw eighth note quantization on there. If you got rolls and fills and stuff, you might need to select those particular notes and quantize them to a 32nd note grid or a triplet grid or a 16th note grid, whatever it may be. Just be aware of that. And if you have record quantization on and you're playing some of those more out there rhythms or faster rhythms, it's going to auto correct them. You might not want that in a certain scenario. So it depends on the different rhythms that you're playing. Alex Reichman, let's take your call. Let's get you in here. Yes. I hope answering some of these questions is helpful. Mini Labs Keybed is unbeatable in the price range. You are right. CAC, you are correct. We're connecting to Alex's audio and then we'll take his call. Hello, Alex. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Welcome to the show. Where are you calling in from?
So I'm in New York from my car.
Amazing. Well, I hope you're staying safe.
Yeah, so I want to ask, I feel like I go through this question a lot.
Mhm.
What do you think's a good approach, like on days where you just can't write anything? Like you're just trying lines and like chords aren't connecting, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's two completely different directions you can go. One is you just take an L for that day and you don't feel bad about it. Like you don't let yourself feel guilty about it. You say, I'm going to step away. I'm trying too hard. It's not coming naturally. Let me step away and do some other leisurely activity. Let me go read a book. For me, it's let me go play some Ghost of Tsushima or play some Call of Duty or watch some YouTube or take a nap, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's that, okay, this is not happening naturally and I'm feeling worse than if I just stepped away. The key point in there, though, is do not let yourself feel guilty. You're doing that in service of your music making process because taking a break can also be productive. Taking a break can help you clear your mind and help you approach it again feeling refreshed sometime later. So keep that in mind. And then the other take is if you really don't feel like that's for you, stepping away, taking a break, it's imposing a set of limitations on yourself and then not allowing yourself to have any expectation of what you're going to make. Really just doing something for fun and to almost be funny. So it's making a track that, this is not going to be my next great track. I'm definitively, whatever I do, I'm not releasing this track. I'm just going to sit down and experiment and make something weird that doesn't make sense, that if I showed it to somebody else, they would say it was trash and they wouldn't get it. If you can sit down and do that in those moments, what you'll end up doing is experimenting and probably stumbling across techniques or a workflow or harmonies, whatever it may be, that you wouldn't normally use, and you might end up kind of learning something. So going out there and not having any expectation of what you're going to create. Not just not having an expectation and saying, maybe this won't be good. Definitively saying, I'm going to sit down and make something not good. Make something totally weird. And then when I exit Ableton or I exit my DAW, I'm not even going to hit save. I'm just going to get rid of it. And I'm just going to have this outlet, this free expression. Because that's a lot of the time where that creative block comes from. It comes from having an expectation of yourself. Because really, when you're like laying out chords or you're playing musical ideas and you feel like nothing's coming, it's because there's some foggy vision in your head that you can kind of see in the distance, but you can't quite get there. What you need to do is get rid of that foggy vision. There is no vision. You can't see what's ahead. Just let it flow freely and let it come out. So those are my two main techniques that I would recommend. One, have a guilt-free rest session where you're not doing anything musical. Or number two, have a completely expectationless, free-flowing creative session where it does not matter what you make. It's literally just for fun.
Right, that makes sense, because I think there's always like a pressure on you, like
Always self-imposed.
Awesome song.
Yeah. And doing one of those things, I think And you figure out which one works in the moment. One might work for one moment, one might work for another. And one might feel better, and you might do one exclusively. You know, it's all about what works for you. But we're always self-imposing pressures on ourselves. We have expectations of ourselves of what we wish we could do. And then it's also, I talk about this too. If things aren't connecting, maybe there's a skill gap. I talked about this in a couple of calls, but sometimes there's a gap between our technical skills and our creative vision. So if our creative vision is outgrowing our technical skills, maybe it's time to sit down and actually do a lesson or watch some really hardcore tutorials and take some notes and learn a new technique. Or if my technical vision isn't broad enough in that moment, is not matching my technical skill, maybe I need to get inspired by something. So I seek out some inspiration, some creative inspiration. So it could be that as well. Try to be really reflective and objective with yourself on what is it? Is it a skill? Are things not lining up in terms of technical and creative vision? Or do I just need a break? Or am I just putting too much pressure and I need to just have some fun? Those are some questions you can ask yourself in those moments.
Right, that makes sense. And one last thing I'll say, I think I might have heard this from you, but something that sometimes will help me is if I, like, say I'm trying to make like lo-fi vibes or something. So I might put on a playlist or play a song by an artist I like and sort of like riff off it a bit.
Totally.
Like I'll see like, oh, he's moving around notes like this, and I'll sort of like get in that vibe and like mix it around a bit, you know?
Yeah. Great artists steal, right? Good artists copy, great artists steal. You know, you're doing the exact right thing. You listen to that music that you love and figure out exactly what are these people doing and how can I emulate it. That's the only way you're really going to fully understand how to make the music that you really love.
Right, that makes sense. All right, thanks a lot. It's cool to call in.
Thanks so much for calling in. I hope you do it again soon.
All right, thanks, man.
Peace out.
See
Have
you.
a good one.
Thanks.
All right. Great call. Great call. John is up next. We're going to get John Cozen in here. I want to real quick say, oh, John, you're here. John has an amazing setup. The folks at home can't see it. John works in some kind of professional field, I think. He's got this Shure SM7B on the boom arm. He's got the Mac Pro, the Launch Key or SL Mark III, 2 keyboards at the desk. Tell us about what you do.
Basically, every time I see you make a video, I buy whatever you're using.
Nice.
So that's my workflow.
Well, I apologize.
It's not been profitable, but that doesn't matter.
Of course, it's fun.
No.
It's art.
So that leads me into my question. TAETRO,
Yeah.
Is I released a couple songs with my very young kid on Spotify, and surprisingly got a lot of listens, even though we were just like really messing around.
Yeah.
So I'm going to now start releasing music under Unmarked Vans as a new name. And I want to start with an EP, 6 or 7 tracks. And I'm asking you today, what is your process when you're saying, this is going to be like a project, this is going to be a record, this is going to be an EP, LP, as opposed to, I'm just making a cool lo-fi beat, which, I mean, those always turn out great, but I'm wondering, do you have like a different kind of mental shift that you do when you're working on something like that? And I know you're making new stuff like on the regular. That's something that you've recently said you're committed to doing. So I would love to just get your insight on all that.
Yeah, it's kind of like 2 things. One is, so I've got Beat Sketches Volume 1 and Beat Sketches Volume 2. Yeah. Those are out on like streaming services. And my thinking with those is like I was making a lot of beats at the time. A lot of beat videos and just not doing anything with the music. So I had amassed all this music and I was kind of like what do I do with it all? And at that time, I felt like I had groups of music that all existed in the same world. And even now when I go back and listen to, or I don't really like listen to them, but when I check out the tracks from Beat Sketches 1 and 2, I can very much hear the place and time that I was at. I had been on a family vacation during a lot of the beats that I made for Beat Sketches Volume 1. And when I go back and listen to those tracks, it brings me right back to that space. So there's some cohesive, we were somewhere tropical, beach vibe. Yeah. Like there's something that ties all those together. And it was really the place and time that they were made. And then adding some common elements among those tracks, like field recordings that give it that setting specifically. Even some of the sounds used are, specifically, a little bit brighter and a little more sunny. And then, to divert to Beat Sketches Volume 2, I started making beats that were a bit darker, that utilized a bit more vocal sample and sounded just like a bit more, I don't want to say like ancient, but like had some type of depth to them that the initial Beat Sketches Volume 1 did not have. And those existed all in the same world, but I was pulling all that music that I was making. That was not all the music I made in that period of time. Those are very specific tracks selected to go together and fit into those cohesive worlds. So that's the one thing I think about when I think about a release is like, if I'm going to do a release with multiple tracks, it needs to be that they all exist in the same world. It needs to be almost like a journey. There needs to be tracks that serve a certain purpose. It can't just all be, one feel. It's got to kind of ebb and flow the same way a song structure does, the same way a song structure keeps the listener interested throughout in the way it ebbs and flows and peaks. An album or a EP, a full release needs to do that as well. So it needs to take a similar shape. Now, I was just going to say the second half of that is I've kind of abandoned for now this idea of like full EP releases and opted to just go for single releases because I felt like I was being held back by saying, okay, no, I need to have 5 pieces that exist in the same world, 5 to 8 to 10. And that can sometimes be a barrier. And it was a barrier for myself. Like I imposed that rule on myself. How do I get over that barrier? I say, heck with it. Let me just release a single. So especially if you're just starting out under this new artist name, Unmarked Vans, it's something to contemplate too. Like, is trying to get a perfect 6 to 7 song EP out going to be a barrier to you releasing?
It already has been, for sure. Just in the couple weeks since I've made the decision, it's like, okay, so everything just stops then because it's never going to be like what I want it to be.
Right.
So, like what they call the waterfall method and just releasing a track when you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, put it out there.
Yes, and what you'll find is releasing like a collection of tracks, especially as a new artist, it gives you kind of one shot at talking about what you're doing, at promoting what you're doing. Right. Gives you one shot. If you release all 6 of those songs, each as singles, whether it's every week, every 2 weeks, every month, however you plan to space it out, it not only gives you more time to work on those individual tracks because you finish one, you schedule the release, but while that's all happening, you're finishing and working on track 2. But it gives you 6 opportunities now. Every time you release a new track is a new opportunity to talk about releasing music, to talk about your new sound.
And one hits and you're like, oh, people are responding
and one
to that
hit
kind of sound.
Exactly. That's the only way you're going to learn your audience. Whereas if you released a 6-song EP, maybe some people listen to all 6 songs. Sure, maybe some people jump on the EP and only listen to like the first couple tracks or even just the first track, and they never even heard track 4, and track 4 was your best track. It's all this possibility. So you make it so much easier for your listener just to release one track at a time in a streaming world, better. Especially.
Right, 1 a month instead of 6 every 6 months or something like that in an EP. Totally makes sense.
It's awesome. It's something I'm doing, and it's something I think a lot of independent artists should consider.
Awesome, thank you. That's very insightful. And one last quick question: which perks am I sleeping on in Ghost of Tsushima?
Oh, I'm diving so deep into the. For those of you who don't know, this is a video game. I'm diving so deep into the ghost stuff. And it's been a few days since I've played, but any kind of stealth mechanic, like multi takedowns. I just got the one where I can flash, like I throw a bomb at the floor and kind of disappear and run away because I love playing stealth. So I throw the bomb at the floor so I can run and gun that way. I can jump right in and take some people down and be seen, but then I can also throw the flash on the ground and disappear like a real ninja.
Do multi-assassinations right there.
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Also very insightful. Thanks as always, my friend.
Thank you so much. Good luck with the music. Keep us posted on how it's going.
I will.
All right, peace out.
All right, peace out.
Cool. A couple more calls and then we're going to end the show today, but I really appreciate all the really great insight today. I know I haven't been keeping up with too much text chat. I'm going to bring on Purr 7 Plus. I think that's how I say that. SR Garden says, I found your YouTube channel recently and wanted to tell you thank you. Thank you. Thank you for finding the channel and liking the videos. Glad. P error or Perror. How do I say it? Please tell me.
Pero.
Paro. Okay, welcome
Yeah.
to the show. Where are you calling in from, Paro?
I'm calling from UAE, Dubai.
The UAE, amazing. We have another caller that frequently calls in from the UAE as well. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
What's your question today?
Thank you very much, TAETRO. Well, actually, I'm just starting out with music production because I've been doing music for a while, but I just decided to start my own production thing.
Amazing.
And I've been really facing this difficulty. I've been watching your tutorials and your thing on Instagram and all of that.
Cool.
It's been helping me a lot. But I have this one particular, the first question. How do I really start like a complete journey to start and then to gradually develop to the level that I'm hoping to get as a beat producer?
Yeah, the number one thing I can tell you if you're just starting out, and that's a very important question because you phrased it perfectly. How do I start out, to get to the point that you have in your mind, like the real goal of where you want to be? And the way you start out is keeping in the back of your mind that goal of where you want to be and how good you want to be. But that is literally where it needs to be, in the back of your mind, something you're working towards in a marathon form, not a sprint. So you're going to make stuff right now that absolutely does not match up with the skill level and the creative level that you want to be at. But you cannot let that stop you from making stuff, because you need to make all that stuff. Like I talk about this all the time. With this channel specifically, I started making videos with a really crappy Android phone on this channel. And if I hadn't done that, this channel, I wouldn't have this GH5 right now, I wouldn't have this really good quality channel that I have now, or better quality channel than when I started. If I had waited and waited and waited, it never would have happened. I had to start with the Android phone. So you're in the Android phone stage of your, production journey, and you gotta just embrace that you're gonna make some bad stuff for a little while. Now, that doesn't mean it's not stuff you can't be proud of. It's not gonna be where you want to go, of course, but you can only measure what you're proud of based on your own personal progress and not compare it to anybody else, because you're at the beginning of your journey and you're going to be more likely to compare yourself to people who are very far along in their journey. And that's not a fair comparison to yourself, because you need to compare yourself with the correct expectations. So you're competing against you. As long as the beat you make tomorrow is better than the beat you made today, you can really find some small success there. And then a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, you can look back at the previous month and say, wow, I've come a long way. I've honed a lot of different skills, and you're just competing against yourself. You will be in for a long journey, and that's what you need to be in for. Otherwise, if you don't have that mindset, you're going to feel defeated and feel like you're not moving fast enough, and you're going to want to quit. But only compete with yourself. Realize it's a long haul journey, and really, really just stick with it. I think I lost the caller, but that is my advice. I hope you were able to hear it all. It's on stream. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Anyway, we do have one more call. I hope that all of you can take some advice from that. I'm going to bring in the last caller here. Yeah, and don't forget to have fun. That's a very good point from John Cozen. Don't forget to have fun. Where are we at? Ayush, how's it going?
Great.
Am I pronouncing that correctly? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Where are you calling in from today? You there? One more try. Hey.
Yep.
Cool. Where are you calling in from?
India.
Great. Another call from India. Cool. What's your question today?
Yeah. Actually, can I ask you from something like hip hop or something?
You can try. I can't guarantee that I will know the answer, but you can try.
Actually, the thing is like my melodies and my drums are, I have made it to some other producers and they said like these are fires, but the drop when the 808 and everything hits, like it just take it everything away. My 808s are like they are the worst thing in the beat.
What's the worst thing
The
in the beat? The
placement,
808s? Say that again.
uh, the placement and the notes I
Uh,
played it doesn't feel right.
it doesn't feel right. So, like, who
Yeah.
are some of your favorite artists? Who do you listen to?
Um, Drake, Kyle Beats, Post Malone.
All right, then you gotta literally go listen to them. Like, take your best Post Malone song, that whatever you think is the best Post Malone song, right? And you gotta try
Yeah.
to completely remake that beat, whatever it is. Complete it exactly. Like, figure out what sounds to use to get it to sound exactly the same. Figure out exactly what notes to play, and then you're gonna take a look at that project. And I want you to really, really analyze what makes it good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
he's playing there's an A minor chord here, and the top note
Yeah.
in the melody is the E. Well, the E is the fifth in the A minor chord.
Yeah.
So that must be a good place to start that melody. Oh, and then the melody moves down from E. Okay, very cool. And then it goes back up. It has a shape to it. I'm going to recreate that
Yeah.
shape. I'm going to start on the fifth. I'm going to go down, recreate that shape. That's really, really what it takes to figure out exactly what you want to do. Like, you got to go in and recreate it and figure out exactly what those artists are doing so that you can emulate it, and then you can branch off from there and do your own thing. But until you learn those rules,
Yeah.
until you learn
Yeah.
what your ear really likes, and it is about like you and your ear, what does your ear think is really good?
Yeah.
When you can start to recreate that sound, you can totally start making something that fits and feels a lot better.
Yeah. The second thing is like I'm too young. Like I'm just 14 right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
You're not too young, but you are early in the stages, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like you're way ahead of me. Like, if you're already starting to make beats, like I didn't start making beats till I was probably in my 20s. So, like, take that as as an advantage and really take solid time to learn and analyze. It's not the most fun thing to do all the time, but it will like propel your skills forward a lot quicker than trying to do things the easy way.
The thing is like I'm too young, so I want to monetize it. Like I have to prove my parents that I can do it and I can like live off with it.
Absolutely. But you know what? That's hard for anybody anywhere. And you can't put you cannot put it ahead of actually building your skills. Once you feel like your skills are at a place where you can start to make some money, you won't make a living off of it that fast. You might make some money. Maybe it's just taking baby steps. Maybe and you're going to have to do a lot for free too. Like maybe it's reaching out to folks who need free beats and just dipping your toe in that way. And eventually people want to pay for your beats, but that's going to come way in the future. Maybe you get into like film scoring and stuff like that. Like there's so many routes in music, and I understand like the cultural need of like some parents just not thinking that you should go into music, and it doesn't make sense. So I understand you have that chip on your shoulder and you have something to prove. All that means is you're going to have to work 5 times as hard as someone like me did. I had it easy. My parents said, you want to go to school for music? Great. You want to be a musician? Great. Not everybody has that privilege. I had that privilege. So you're going to have to work 5 times as hard. But if it's what you really want, you'll be able to do it for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for the advice.
Thank you so much for calling in. Bye.
Bye.
Great calls today, folks. I'm stoked. I'm happy that we were able to get all these calls in. I'm not sure if I made, here we go. Should I start out with making beats and mixing at the same time? Thank you. It's kind of hard to not do that for me, to be honest, but you should, especially if you're just starting out, just make some beats. learn to mix and learn fixing the mixes after. Learn to make great music first. And then once you have some great music, then be like, all right, let me learn about mixing and then mix that great music. If you're doing them at the same time, you're going to get frustrated because you're trying to build the skill to make a great music, and then mixing is its very own skill. I just had 2 more calls come in, or 1 more. And we're going to take Aaron, aka Audio Duck, who just became a patron over on patreon.com/TAETRO. Aaron or Audio Duck, thank you so much for becoming a patron.
What's up, brother?
What's up?
How you
Welcome.
doing?
You made it. I think you're going to be my last call today.
Awesome. Yeah, I just I'm happy that I caught you. I'm gonna check back and see what the content was about.
Yeah, the best part is you missed all the
But I have-
technical issues at the beginning, so you can skip a little bit at the beginning if you need to.
Oh, trust me, I got that. But so yeah, I have good news.
Let's hear it.
I downloaded Soundflower, so my audio is
Amazing.
routing like pure audio, right? So now I'm nervous.
If you've got, because
And-
now you have to do it.
I have little excuses. I'm learning how to use like just different things, and I'm just kind of getting overwhelmed by the whole concept of formula and all this nonsense. And it's just like,
Tell me what that means. What does that mean, concept of formula?
Concept of formula when it comes to content creation. I just want to do what I do. Like I'm kind of an awkward person.
Mhm.
And the whole reason why I want to like create content and do kind of like what you do, which is a lot more than what I feel like I'm capable of doing now. But like when you first started, I guess if someone told you where you'd be at today with what you're able to accomplish and all that, you might not be so. I mean, you might have been like
No,
able
like
to, be like,
straight up, like we talked about comparison a little bit earlier, and I know you just joined in the show, but
Yeah,
there's
I
no
hear on
reason
that.
to compare what you're doing right now in your place in your journey to compare it to me and my journey where I've been doing this YouTube thing for a while. But if you want like a real fresh like reality check on that, go to my channel and go to my videos and sort them not by like relevance or not by most viewed, sort them by date, like backwards, and go look at the
Yes.
very first videos. If you hear me talk in those videos, you will not recognize my voice. My voice sounds completely different. I was getting acquainted with like, who is TAETRO when TAETRO's behind the camera? Like it's something I had to learn and grow into. And it was like that for a while. So like if you really want a reference point to maybe compare yourself to, go look at some of those early videos. Don't compare it to the videos now.
Understood. And you know what? It's not, it's so easy to overthink this stuff. And I feel
Totally.
like, I can get carried away with quality till like, the cows come home. But when I look online and I look at all the videos that producers put out there, it is true that most of them like serve a specific purpose. But for me, like my whole plan with this endeavor of mine is to like, well, the first question that I have is like, how do I label my videos when the theme is generally gonna be the same? Like I don't have new controllers to present or anything like that, but what I do have is like a limited understanding and a desire to learn more about, and I have like the ability to present this content in a way that like I feel like so many people, they would want to kind of do the same thing, like even if they don't have the means, just trying, you know what I mean? And to have the content like, quality enough, you understand what I'm saying, to where they can observe it with pleasure. And I just want people to have like an outlet to where they don't feel like they're alone, kind of. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
they're
and
not
if that
alone.
is your thing, it almost becomes a little bit less instructional. Of course, it can be instructional content within that, but it also becomes a little more about documenting too. And bringing people along for the ride. I think what you said, if you can really nail that, you can't nail that by just releasing some videos. So you're going to have to do some groundwork of figuring out like, how do you get Because if you really want it to be like an outlet for people, like you said, like you releasing videos is not an outlet for people. It's going to give them maybe a place to gather. Like maybe your comment section is the place that community lives for a while. Maybe you're starting a Facebook group for people to like do all the same challenges. Maybe your thing is like you're taking on a specific challenge for yourself and your journey, but you're asking other people to come along the way with it, and that's part of your content. I think if you're really mindful and thinking about that as your channel, it doesn't have to be the channel where it's like, okay, I'm going to show you how to use a compressor, or okay, here's the new MIDI controller. It doesn't have to be that. If you're very passionate about that community aspect and giving people a sense of growing together as a group and that they're not alone, I think there's a way to make really compelling content out of all that. But I will just say, as you're thinking about quality and as you're getting ready to make your first video, I want to let you know that you are about to make the worst videos that you will ever make. And like
Thank
that,
you.
but that's the reality check that people just starting really, really need. Like whether
For
you're
sure.
like, even like folks that called in talking about music production specifically, you're about to make the worst tracks that you will ever make. You are about to make the worst videos you will ever
my God.
make. And you have to embrace that is
Yes.
what's happening right now. You have to embrace that you're not about to sit down and make the best YouTube that has ever been made. That is an unrealistic expectation for yourself. And even though you might not have explicitly told yourself that that's what you want to do, in the back of your mind somewhere, that's the expectation you have.
It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. And like, here's what's going to happen. I have a workflow, and sometimes I start with my guitar. Sometimes I start with the beats. When I had the MPC, I used to start with the beats and then work on top of that. But, you know, I feel like as long as I explain a little bit of the process, like as I'm doing it and not just stare at a camera and do these things, I feel like I can develop a kind of rapport.
Totally.
That way. And that's and you're totally right. You know, with the B-rolls and all that stuff, you know, I don't really want to worry about that right now. I just want to release like an intro, like, hello, these are my goals. And then novation, launch key time, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then hopefully wherever we go from there. And I can't wait. I developed I finally got, like, I feel so old when I talk about this, but I just got like my Instagram popping. I didn't put anything. I just started linking like my SoundCloud, and I'm getting followers from other like young producers and stuff like that. And I'm just like, just that alone gives me like anxiety. Like I got to go relax because like I didn't even do anything, and this is already starting to work, kind of thing. So
yeah, take it slow.
I'm excited.
Take it slow. Have realistic expectations. You are totally going to be able to do it. Have fun. Number one, someone was reminding people of that in the chat. Have fun. Put stuff out. Realize that you have to like really have realistic expectations that you're just starting. So your content way in the future is going to be way better, and you're putting yourself out there now, but you don't really, and your whole thing is about audience, community building a rapport. That's something that takes time. You're not going to drop your first video and have a bunch of people there feeling together and feeling like they want to be a part of it. But it is the first step that's necessary in building that. So you will have a small audience to begin with, and it might stay small until you hit that really good content that causes it to sort of snowball.
Niche. When I find a niche.
When you find that niche, and you're going to find it by doing it. It's not, you can do all the planning you want. You got to find it by doing it for sure.
And a personal question, because this is one of my expectations that I don't want to be disillusioned about too much. Like I'm trying to be realistic, like you're saying. So do people through your journey and your whole learning process, because I mean, this stuff isn't really school-based stuff. I mean, it's kind of hard to get into this in school.
Unless you go to 343labs.com and check out the courses. That's the way to school.
Yeah, I've been digging and I'm finding more. So, but when through your journey, have you been influenced, and have you grown like through the people that you kind of, you know, produce content for? Like, have people like noticed things and been like, yo, if you do it like this would be easier if you did this? Because that's like really what I want to do. I don't want to just be like, you know, stagnant. You know what I'm saying? I want to get better at what I'm doing. And that's kind of like the biggest reason, because this is a life journey for me. I'm going to continue to get better till the day I die. But I'm wondering if I'm going to be, you know, kind of like on my own doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to connect. That's why I want to connect.
Yeah. And, you know, connecting can mean a lot of things. It can mean like directly interacting with somebody. Like I've had so much like quote unquote paid training, which basically means just, you know, I've worked on jobs and I've worked on gigs, whether it's video, whether it's creating music or whatever, where, you know, I was getting paid to do this job, but I was working alongside people that knew a lot more than me about the thing that I was doing. And I didn't see it as like, oh, I'm a cool guy who got hired to do this gig and I know what I'm doing. I got into it by saying like, amazing, I get to work alongside these people and learn every single thing that they do so I can take it and improve it. So yeah, that's definitely been part of the process. But it's also like you can learn from people that you never interact with in your life. Like I went to college with, you know, professors that I could interact with and learned a heck of a lot less from them than I just learned from this stream I watched with Internet Money folks. And Nick Mira was on the stream today and they were talking about the music industry and stuff. Like I learned a lot more in that 90-minute stream of people I couldn't even interact with than I learned from some college professors that I had to go to an hour class with 3 times a week. So you can learn, it's not just about, you know, I know you want to connect with people, of course, but you can learn from people. You can make these people your professors if they've got content on the internet.
You are the man. Like, I got to tell you, you are the one. Like, I'm such a fanboy of you because of the service you provide, man. Like, you serve the community in a way that I don't see other people doing. Like, that's what I kind of want to do. Like, as I learn, I feel like it's not fair that it took me this long. So if I learn something, I want to share that information with everybody else who has a hard time understanding stuff, because I'm just like everybody else.
And that's
exactly
exactly how I've honed the content around this channel. Is like stuff took me so long to learn that I wish people would have just put out there. And that's what I try to do, put it out there and make it beginner friendly. And I quickly realized that my audience was indeed like a lot of like beginners, people just starting out. So I was really hoping that I could meet that audience and doing stuff, even stuff like this. Like this is just a call-in show. We're not making beats. We're not doing an Ableton like tutorial or anything. You know, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But exactly. I just hope it serves the community and that people are taken from it. And if you do that with your stuff and your channel, you put your audience first and you really meet their needs. Don't just do what you want to do, but kind of a nice blended mix.
Have an open mind.
Yeah, have an open mind. Figure out what you want to do and how it blends with what the community wants from you. That's how you'll be happy and make cool content.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough. Amazing job. Just keep it up, and that's why I'm clicking here. You know what I'm saying? We're just kind of kindred in that way. So I really do appreciate it. I don't want to take up all your time, throw up on the stream or anything like that, but thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it. And good luck. We can't wait to see some content.
All right. Thank you. Be well.
You too. That's going to be it for calls today, folks. I thank everyone for calling in today and having a good time. I know we had some technical issues at the top of the stream, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in and taking some value from the calls. We had a really good time, and I hope if you're watching this later, that you were able to take some value from it. I want to thank Joe Bell, who became a patron during the stream at patreon.com/TAETRO. I always want to mention, again, our sponsor for today's stream is 343 Labs. 343 TV is airing daily music production streams where you can learn with a 343 Labs instructor for free at youtube.com/343 Labs. Those are every day, 10 a.m. EST. We've got an Ableton show, a Logic show. Tomorrow's show is a hardware show with Abe Duque. Sometimes he does modular stuff, a lot of different hardware stuff. Next week, we have the very, very cool Sanjay C on TAETRO Talks. It's going to be a very, very fun interview. He just came out with a cool software instrument that I've got my hands on. I haven't had a chance to make a beat or anything with it yet, but I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you tune in next week. That's going to be a great interview. Sanjay is so dope. I hope everybody has a great afternoon, evening, Friday for some people. We had a lot of fun today, and stay tuned for more. 343labs.com if you want to check out some courses at 343 Labs. If not, if you want to tune in for free with some very cool instructors and you want to just learn with the instructors, same instructors that teach these courses, but you want to learn with them for free, subscribe, youtube.com/343labs, and tune in every day, 10 a.m. EST. There's even feedback sessions on Saturdays. Ableton Certified Trainer Aetropolis is doing those, so you can submit music, he'll review it, etc., etc. Thank you all so much. You are a fantastic community. I'm so happy and I'm proud and thankful for all of you tuning in. But for now, this has been TAETRO. Have a good one. Oh, I have to hit the transition button. Interesting. Shout out to Rev Saves for being a great moderator during the stream. Also, shout out to Accurate who was hanging out in the stream. Thank you.